Hi class, this is Miss Newman. This is the literary analysis informative video, so we're going to go over the topic sheet and exactly what I'm expecting for this essay. This type of essay analyzes a literary work by picking an aspect, so that would be a theme, tone, character, symbolism, etc., and illustrating an argument for the reader using textual evidence. So that's going to be dialogue between characters or a description that the author provides, usually of the setting. The writer should assume that the reader has read the work. So essentially, don't do too much plot summary because you're assuming that the reader has already read the literature. The writer will prove a point without too much plot summary. If a part of the plot is summarized, it is to make a point for the overall argument. So if you do find yourself summarizing a part of the story, it's to make an argument about a theme or a character's personality or something of that sort. The rough draft is going to be due Wednesday, November 10th by midnight in the discussion board because I actually want you guys to do peer review again on this essay so that you can benefit from your classmates' feedback. Notice the rough draft submission will be worth a daily grade and attendance assignment for that week. The final draft will be due Wednesday, November 17th by midnight in the content area Blackboard, and it'll also count as a daily grade or attendance assignment. This essay is worth 20% of your final grade. Essays should be between 500 to 750 words in length, but if it goes over 750, that's all right. Just the minimum is 500 words. Since I'm providing the link to the short story, you won't have to have a works cited page for this because I already know where you're getting your information. Just make sure there's no outside sources used for this essay because I want it to be your interpretation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado, not whatever resource you find online's interpretation. Because what happens typically is if students use outside sources on these essays, they really do just repeat what the interpretation is of what's online, and I've read those interpretations enough. I much prefer to hear your own perspective on the story. The formatting is exactly the same as always. It's 12-point Times New Roman font, double space with MLA heading and style. There is an example in your textbook for MLA heading, so if you need to be reminded of those page numbers, just let me know where the examples are. The below topics are based on Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Cask of Amontillado. You could focus on themes in the work, so that would be, hopefully you've read the works I'm about to plot spoil. Death is obviously a major theme because in the end he murders Fortunato. Montresor murders Fortunato by walling him up into the crypt. So death, murder, deception, all of those have been common themes within this story. So yeah, alcoholism is another really popular theme because Fortunato is lured into his death essentially because he wants to try that wine. The Amontillado is a type of wine. And so alcoholism is another major theme as well. So, and I'm sure as a reader, you've probably picked up on your own themes, but I just wanted to give you some examples of what I mean when I say theme. Tones the author utilizes. The tone for the story is like so many Edgar Allan Poe stories. It's really dark, it's spooky, it's macabre. Those are kind of the tones. It's more the emotion you get when you read the story versus the idea specifically like death. Foreshadowing is hinting at what's going to happen at the end of the story, and there's a lot of foreshadowing in the short story, specifically when they do the toast to long life. Said, "I to your long life," because he wants him to suffer as long as possible, walled up in the wall. Also, whenever he shows him his mason shovel, that's the trowel, essentially is what they call it. That's the murder weapon. He shows him the murder weapon because he uses that to wall him up. And then the cough, he said, "I shall not die of a cough." Fortunato has a bad cough, and Montresor says, "True, true." So those are just some of the more obvious examples of foreshadowing in this short story that Fortunato will die at the end. The author likes to place hints to the reader, usually, that something's going to happen. Protagonist and antagonist. The protagonist is another word for hero. Antagonist is another word for villain. There's obviously only two characters in this story, Montresor and Fortunato, but I've heard both perspectives on which character is the hero and which character is the villain. And it's always interesting to hear the perspective because we're never given a reason on why Montresor wants to murder Fortunato. So there's been various theories on motive and whether or not that motive is worth the crime. And so ultimately, that's your own perspective as a reader on what you're bringing into it. But if you choose one of those, you would focus on what you view the character to be like. Symbolism is when an item represents an idea. So typically flowers symbolize love, skulls symbolize death. They're literally surrounded by skulls in the setting. They walk into the family crypt and there's piles of bones surrounding them. So very symbolic of death, ultimately murder as well, because those bones actually help hide Fortunato's body once it's walled up, because they can just pile the bones in front of it. Also, the wine itself is symbolic of alcoholism. And so there's various symbols within the story. I don't want to go into every single one because maybe you guys picked up on a couple of the others, but just to give you examples of what I mean when I say symbolism. As always, there's a final draft late submission rule. So it's 10 points off every day late on that final draft. So just make sure you turn it in on time. And if for any reason you cannot make the deadline, just let me know the reason and we'll talk. So all your final drafts will be graded using the same grading rubric as always. All the essays have been graded using the same grading rubric, and they're all scanned with anti-plagiarism software. So just make sure you turn in an essay that is your own original essay and doesn't have a lot of extra ideas from other sources. And I've got a spot for brainstorming and outlining if you need it to develop your ideas. But notice you will turn in a topic proposal and outline for this essay so that I can get an idea of exactly what direction you're taking your idea, like your essay. So just make sure you check discussions, because there are more instructions within the discussion thread. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks. Bye.